Welcome to Mark D. Maker. My name's Mark Taylor, and we're going to be looking at calipers and measures today. Just real quick before we get into sizing the beak. We'll need them to size the beak. So here's a really cheap pair. These are sculptor calipers, sizers. Any of these could be used. These are the more expensive one. They're spring loaded. These just have a riveted piece in the base. You're best off using these to have them open and squeeze them shut rather than trying to open them, because they're a little sticky kind of opening. But you can get very accurate by closing. See, if when you open them, it's a little tight, so it's just a lot smoother as you close them to come in on the measurement. Same with these are a little stiffer, so even more so, closing, that's how you come in on the measurement. And you'd be able to use these for gauging size, length, distance from different things. On a bird, the beak is part of the skull, and so often you would use the tip of the beak to the center of the eye for to find where the eye is placed. So I know that the beak length is proper, but it's way too wide. Now these are dividers. You can see the handle on it, and it's meant for incrementally stepping off measurements. So you can spin the little handle up in my hand. If you notice, these don't have it because that's not what it's used for. These, once again, it's best to close in on your measurement, and this will lock it in. If you try to tighten this in, you're fighting the tension of that spring. If you can squeeze it in and hold it and then adjust in, you'll get to your measurement much quicker. Same, hold it in, back it out. You can see these things open really wide. These are pretty beefy. I like this tool for the simple fact that it's beefy. It's not going to twist, or you can get very nice true measurements with that. For taking the beak down in size, which we're going to be doing today, I'll be using this little Excel. It holds a number 11. Well, it'll hold multiple different types of blades, but this is a number 11 X-Acto blade. And the reason why I like the Excel is it's got four basically fingers there that squeeze together, and it really holds that blade in place. I've literally sunk my blade so far into a piece of wood that I couldn't get it out hardly. I really had to pull. Never came out of this, and that's pretty rare. Usually X-Acto handles that are this size, the blade comes out of it fairly easily. So this is pretty nice. It's got a hexagon base down here, which helps prevent it from rolling. Sometimes I'll just put a piece of tape over it, doubled over, so the tape usually will, if I'm working on my workbench, it'll keep it from rolling off. Oh, I got some pumpkins here I've been carving, working on. Epoxy stems. You can see them all through here. I'm going to open an Etsy shop soon, and I'll be putting these little Santa Clauses, little people, on there. And when I do, I'll put it in the link below. So let's get working on the bird. Oh, one more thing. I do have a new microphone. I have a Shure 88, which clips right to my cell phone. I use a cell phone to film. Real nice mic. Hopefully this will improve my audio and have better sound. So now, let's get to it. I'm squeezing it with my hand and bringing the lock nut right up to it. A little bit of spring back, so a little tighter. That's about right. And so from the top to bottom, this should fit both on the top and the bottom of the beak, and you can see it doesn't. So the beak is too tall. Now let's see how wide it is. We'll use these calipers. And if you can see, that only goes back. This should go all the way back here. And so it's too wide as well. There's quite a bit to take off on this beak. This is a little bird, and so the little bird's got a little beak. So I'm going to go real slow and take little bits and then keep measuring. Little on the sides. Little on the top. Little on the bottom. And then we'll go back to our calipers and see how far we are. Let's see, this was top and bottom. We're closer. And then this was our sides. Not really much of a difference there. We took some wood off, but need to come up further. Close it to the tip. So you can see it's a little closer. A little further down, so I'm going to stop going out to the tip so much, and I'm going to focus on back in this area. There's a change in the grain right there. I can feel the blade digging in, and you can see it peeling up a little bit. Let's Let's see if I can get closer. Yeah, you can see it peeling up there. So I'll just change direction. There, we're getting a little closer. So this is something that you just take your time and creep up on it. At least that's how I do it. Yep. Push down just a hair to see if I can get a little mark there. Now it's funny, I watch several sculptors, and this one particular sculptor is very, very talented, but he holds his breath when he works, and you can hear him hold his breath, and then I'll take a breath after holding it. Try to breathe consistently. It'll help you relax, make the whole process more enjoyable. Just going at little bits at a time now, because we're getting close. What I did there is push just a little bit in to see if I could get a little bit of a mark. And I see right where it's at. And it pretty much, the beak kind of flattens out there a little bit. So I'm just gonna lay that in there like so. Get the shape back, so paring down the sides. Now this grain of this wood is running with the beak, it's running that way, so I don't have to worry about it necessarily shearing off or breaking off super easy, but it is thin out here at the end. And what you can do is, once it's sanded down and smoothed, is a little drop of thin super glue, and it'll soak in and it'll harden up, and it won't prevent, but it'll help reduce the chances of that tip of the beak breaking off. Left a good mark down at the bottom here. Just remove that mark. Starting to dig in there a little bit. little pieces, little tiny slivers, because if it starts to dig in, by taking your time and doing little slivers, you can reverse, come back the other way, and it's no big deal. If you don't, and you're moving too fast in a delicate area like that, you could shave off the whole beak, and then you have to cut it off and drill and put a dowel in there and start over. So we're getting pretty close. So pretty close from top to bottom. And let's see, side to side. Still needs quite a bit of work, side to side. Still looking at the center line, even though I don't have it drawn. I can see it here. It's still there. It's just very light right now. Okay, I don't want to take any more off there. That's right at where I need to be. And I think we're finally down to the base. Yes. So this is the Potomac River here. It's Virginia on this side. On the other side, that's Maryland. Upstream, we have Harper's Ferry, where the Shenandoah River comes into the Potomac. As we shift around down this way, downstream, Potomac goes into Fairfax, Alexandria, then across from Alexandria is Washington, D.C., out to the Chesapeake Bay. It's a beautiful river. Okay, so first off, I used a little plastic wood here and right underneath the chin here to bulk it out. Now the plastic wood I use, it's called plastic wood, and it's acetone based, so it dries very, very quickly. So you have to kind of work quickly with it. You put it on. If you can't seem to work with it quick enough, use a little acetone on a brush. Use an old brush, because it'll ruin the brush. The hairs in it, it just pulls all the moisture out of it. But use that acetone on the brush to smooth it out, and you'll get a nice transition because it dries so quickly it becomes crumbly. I did not do that, so it's a little bit rough. So what I'll do is I'll sand it very lightly with 100 grit, maybe 150, just real lightly. This stuff sands super easy, and you can just sand right through it really quickly. So you have to take your time, but you can really shape this plastic wood very easily. So I would recommend 150, and then shape with something maybe even a little finer, a little sanding stick. So just with a very light touch, just to get it smooth before you really go in to do any shaping. And that's, you're just knocking off the high ridges, getting it to the general proper shape. The stuff, when it goes on, can go on crumbly and leave ridges, and I've learned pretty much just leave it alone and just sand them. Tends to work for me. You see, not much at all in effort, and it's already pretty smooth. Now, if you are sanding close to the eyes, you need to be careful because they are glass and they will scratch. But that's where a little sanding stick like this, with short movements, finger braced against it, always finger brace when you're doing any kind of detail work, and you'll be fine. You won't have any issues. If you do get a little scratch on the eye, clear fingernail polish makes it disappear. Okay, what I had to do here is there was just too much gone off of the cheek here, and I wasn't having it symmetrical. So now I have to reintroduce this line right here, over here, and I will use a light touch with the sanding stick, and it just goes right in. It's actually a lot easier to sculpt with the plastic wood than it is cutting the real wood, but it's also more fragile. So I try to do as much as you can with the wood, but if you make a mistake, don't trash it. You can always fix it. So looking head on, you can see how this line right here is going to match that line. Time to do a little sanding. All right, now you can see this is the side that I just did, and it's looking pretty good. Actually looks better than than this side. Added a little bit right here underneath the beak because it's supposed to be there. A little patch of feathers right here. And I'm ready to move on to feather layout. So I'm referring to the book for feather layout, and feather layout is really important. Almost as important, or if not more important, than the feathers themselves, because it determines the direction of the feathers, and this will give you your artistic flair. This is where you as an artist come out. Fisher jump in. So I'm using the book as a reference here,
for these flow lines. The feathers come off of the eye and back towards the back of the bird. They kind of sweep forward from the eye here and then flow back. This is real important if you're competing or if you're entering a show for realism. I'll give you a tip. The judges are always looking for transitions. The transition from the eye to the feathers, the transition from the beak to the feathers, the transition from feather group to feather group. If the transition is done realistic and looks good, you'll do fine. Now these feathers, as you start moving down this way onto the cape and in the shoulders up here, they won't be that visible, but they're important. You'll see the change, the reflection in the paint will indicate these feathers. And I'm not going to carve them out individual. There's a burning technique, and we'll get into the next video, and those will look very realistic. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out suggestions of feathers through here, mostly lines, which will burn in the next video as well. So I'll go ahead and get it all laid out, and next video will burn. So please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.